States Army and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. All right, so, man, there's a lot going on. Are Austin bar owners, along with the Texas Restaurant Association, are they really serious about security on 6th Street in Austin, Texas? We got to discuss that today because, man, there's people are not understanding us when we say, when we're talking about the TABC and how bars, because of COVID-19, actually switched to restaurants. So we need to discuss that. And also, we have on Skype, we have Dave Matheny from the Silencer Shop. He's the CEO of Silencer Shop, and he's going to be here to talk to us about suppressors. And we're going to talk about the history of how do we get to where we are today as far as firearm silencers. We're also going to talk about the suppressor bill that the state of Texas actually passed. Going to discuss that. But you know what? What is going on with downtown Austin? So the Austin mass shooting on June 12th, on the anniversary of the Pulse nightclub shooting, was not a gun-free zone. And, you know, people always first come out and say, oh, man, this happened in a gun-free zone. It did not. It didn't happen inside of a bar. It actually happened on the street. But there were a couple of shootings. There was a shooting that actually took place earlier this year that actually happened inside of a bar in Austin. And do you know that 90% of the bars in Austin, because of COVID-19, you can actually take a handgun inside with a license? And let me explain that to you. During COVID-19 in 2020, when your restaurants, were allowed to stay open, the bars were not. All bars had to close down because of COVID-19. Well, if a bar wanted to open, what they had to do is they had to change their liquor license from a bar, 51%, to a restaurant. And by doing this changed their gun status and their knife status. Because once you change your liquor license to a restaurant, then a person with a license can take a handgun inside and you can take any size knife inside. As with a bar, 51%, no guns are allowed, and you cannot take a knife over 5.1 inches inside because they're 51% establishment. So I encourage people to go to the TABC's website and just look up all those bars that are lined up on 6th Street and look at what their liquor license says. If it says gun sign blue, that means that with a license to carry handgun, you can take your gun inside. If it says gun sign red, that means they're 51% and you cannot take a gun inside. It's a felony currently right now. And you also cannot take a knife where the length of the blade is over 5.1 inches. So I encourage you to go ahead and take a look at that. We'll discuss that a little later. We'll break that down for you because we need to talk about security. Got to talk about these owners of, these different businesses because this is the party district of Austin. This is where people come from around the world to have a great time. And we need to start talking about security and how we're going to make it better because guess what? There's a shooting almost every single week. Something different has got to happen. And someone's got to take the lead on that. And it's going to have to come from the owners because our city council, our leadership is lacking since they're removing funds from the police department. Police departments can't keep up. We're looking at record number of vacancies from the Austin Police Department, and we're going to talk about that as well. But let me get into the Silencer Shop. Let's talk about suppressors. Let's talk about silencers. I want to talk about that. Let's welcome to the show Dave Matheny. He's the Austin resident and CEO and founder of Silencer Shop and board member of the American Suppressor Association. Dave, welcome to Come and Talk It, sir.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing outstanding, sir. All right, so, Dave, tell us about yourself and how did you become the CEO and founder of Silencer Shop?
Yeah, it was kind of an accident. I grew up around guns. As a kid, I always thought I was a gun guy. As an adult, I actually kind of became one. Started training, started learning about them. But I was a computer programmer. I was a computer programmer for about 20 years. When my son got old enough to start hunting and shooting with me, he was born 100% deaf in his right ear. So I went and got a suppressor, just really thinking that it would be, hearing safety for him. And the process really went pretty horribly. I did end up getting it, but it was barely. So I went and bought it from a more reputable, dealer locally who had been in stock for a while or had been in business for a while and had a pretty similar experience where it was kind of just a bad experience all around. And what I decided to do was to start doing transfers for people in the local area. That was my whole goal. It wasn't really starting a big business because I liked my job, right? But Silencer Shop was born from that, and it really exploded beyond what I ever would have imagined, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. Because you walk into the lobby of Silencer Shop and you're thinking, okay, this is kind of a small place, but Silencer Shop
Yeah,
is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, you guys are a huge business. I mean, you're recognized around the country and in other countries.
that's right. Yeah, and you walk into the front of the store, and it is misleading because you go behind the wall. I'm sure you've been back there, where it's we've got about 55 employees now, and three high-speed printers that run nonstop printing this paperwork. We'll do thousands of submissions a week.
Oh, wow. And so, so Dave, tell us, what's the process of acquiring a silencer? We get that question a lot, because we actually have one of your kiosks in our lobby at Central Texas Gunnerworks. And so, what's the process? How do a person, go about getting a suppressor or a silencer?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Step one is really, figure out what you want and buy it. You can go into, your shop, for example, just talk to somebody, figure out what you want. After that, you need to figure out how you want to register. And for almost everybody, we recommend using a single shot trust. I think that's the best way to register a silencer right now. But some people will have family trusts or want to register as an individual or a corporation. But once you've decided that, then you go through the kiosk, which takes 5-10 minutes. We'll do all the paperwork. We'll get it sent to the ATF. There is a $200 tax. There's nothing really overly complicated about it because we do all the paperwork. The one thing is the wait time is currently, call it 8 months. And it's by the time you get to the end of that 8 months, sometimes you feel like the process was hard, but a lot of the reason for that is just because of the wait. You're kind of looking back and you're feeling like you're a kid before Christmas, for 8 months, and that makes it feel hard.
All right, so we're talking with Dave. He's the Austin resident. He's also a CEO and founder of Silencer Shop and board member of the American Suppressor Association. We're going to talk about the shooting that happened in downtown Austin, which is a mass shooting of 14 people that were injured. We're going to talk about that and talk about security. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Folks, this is Doug Man Jones. And I get my gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was Army discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking about the shooting that happened in downtown Austin. I'm asking the Austin bar owners, and also I'm asking the Texas Restaurant Association if, are they really going to take security serious on 6th Street? Because we're having shootings, downtown Austin now almost every single weekend. So that means something different has got to change. If I know, here I'm running a business, and I've had, 2 actually break-in attempts in the business. Luckily, they were unsuccessful. The last break-in attempt, you had a group of 8 people and 5 vehicles try to break into the gun store. So they were unsuccessful. But to make sure that whoever came behind them was also unsuccessful, I decided to make some changes. I decided to increase the security and more cameras, and increase the entrance, the ceiling, the back, everything, and made a bunch of changes to the business to make sure that we tighten up security even more, even though they were unsuccessful. So what different? What are they going to do downtown Austin? We've had a mass shooting now of 12 people. That means something different has got to change. And I'm suggesting something very simple, little simple changes such as blocking off the street so that even motorcycles, all vehicles cannot park on 6th Street, including motorcycles. Also, you need to block it off like we do for the, ACL, Austin City Limits? No, it's not ACL. What is the one we have at Zocco Park? What is it? Okay, ACL. So just like we do at ACL down at Zocco Park, you're going to block it all off, block that 6th Street area off, that party district, and then, take people, follow them through a security checkpoint. Unfortunately, that's what you're going to have to do. And then also the bars, they need to, you need to check people as they're coming inside. You can't, take a look at this video here. You can't be like, you got to take security serious. You can't be that person that's, and this, doesn't have any sound. So let's, we're not going to do it with any sound at all. But you can't do your security like this guy right here. Lackadaisically, checking people. You got to take it very serious. You got to warn people, make them go to a metal detector, and make sure that no one's carrying guns or knives into your establishment. Because we want people to have a great time. Someone starts trouble, you got to kick them out immediately, contact the police, and get rid of them. So that way we can all continue to have a great time. That's what it's all about. We want to enjoy ourselves while we're downtown Austin or in Rainey Street or other places around the city. You got to take security serious if we're going to make a difference. But we'll get back to that a little later. I'm talking with Dave. He's the CEO of Silencer Shop. We're talking about how the Silencer Shop, man, is a force to be reckoned with, because the Silencer Shop, that's the place I know everyone gets their suppressors and silencers from. When it comes to processing, all your NFA paperwork, it goes through the Silencer Shop. I don't know anyone else that we deal with. And they are definitely a force to be reckoned with. So, Dave, you're telling us about the process of acquiring a silencer. You're talking, but I have a question for you. What are some of the benefits of silencers beyond hearing protection?
There are a lot, actually. I think it's hearing protection is the first one people think of, although in a lot of cases, I'll still wear hearing protection with a silencer. So it's not the end all be all in hearing protection, but there's less recoil, you get more velocity, better accuracy in a lot of cases. It really there are a lot of it just makes shooting more enjoyable.
And then you're absolutely right. I need to make all my rental guns. I need to add silencers to all the rental guns there.
Yes, you do.
All right, so give us a little history of the suppressors, and who invented it. Who's the guy that invented suppressors? How did it come about? How did we get to this point?
The suppressors were invented, probably about 120 years ago now. They were originally marketed as a silencer, and the legal term silencer came from that original marketing. In the 1930s, just through a almost an accident of history, they wound up being regulated under the National Firearms Act. That's why there's a $200 tax and registration on them now. But it's like I said, it was almost an accident of history. They weren't actually intended to be in there originally. But there's, then over the course of, the next 80 years, because of the way they were regulated, once again, $200 tax, you had to register it, there's a long wait, almost nobody had them. And when nobody has them, we start getting our information about them off TV. So everybody sees James Bond or whatever assassin movie, and they start thinking that's what a silencer is, and that's just not reality, right? I think we're in a world now where inflation has brought the tax stamp into a realm of affordability for a lot of people. $200 is a lot, but it's not prohibitive for most people. So people are starting to understand what they are. The market's starting to grow, and I hope we can kind of counteract this, assassin's tool mentality, because they really are. They're just a safety device.
Is it true that it was invented by the same guy that did the car muffler?
Yeah, that's right. So, and I tell you, this is my understanding of it, is that he invented the gun silencer first, and then basically applied that same concept to the car just by essentially welding it onto his exhaust. But that company's still in business, Maxim Silencers, and they still make car mufflers.
Oh, wow. All right. So what's the legality of silencers across the nation?
Almost everywhere you can own, hunt, whatever. I mean, you can use them for really whatever. There are a few states that they're the ones you would expect. It's like California, New York, New Jersey, those types of states you can't own them, but most everywhere else you can.
Okay. All right. And then what's the process of if a person has a silencer, a suppressor currently right now, and they have a tax stamp for it, and they want to sell it to another person, to another private citizen, kind of what's the process of them, going through that?
The process is pretty much identical to how you would buy from a dealer. There are a couple of minor differences. So essentially, you would have, the person buys the silencer from you, you fill out a Form 4, you submit it to the ATF. It's just a person to person, but it's still on a Form 4. There's a $200 tax, and you hold on to it until that Form 4 comes back approved to you. The main difference is if you're transferring from person to person, you can sell to somebody as young as 18. If you're buying from a dealer, dealers can only sell to people that are 21. So that's really the only real difference. And on the Form 4, where you have the transfer ORS, federal firearms license number, obviously a person to person doesn't have that, so you just leave it blank.
Okay. And then what's the myth about silencers? Are they really silent?
No, not even. They're on some of the very, very low pressure rounds, like a 22. You can get pretty close to silent, but you look on an AR-15, a top of the line silencer on an AR-15 is about as loud as a jackhammer on concrete. I actually, when I'm out hunting or shooting with an AR-15, because that's most of my hunting is actually with a 6.8 in an AR, I'll still wear an earplug in my right ear just because of the sound escaping through the ejection port.
Okay. And let's go back into a little more of how they become, pretty much illegal, or how they become part of the NFA process, the National Firearms Act.
Yeah, so going back to the 1930s, that the NFA, National Firearms Act, was originally intended to regulate handguns, right? So basically it was supposed to be machine guns and handguns, and Supreme Court got involved, and handguns were in common use, so that was kind of struck down, and they came back again. That's where we get all this nonsense about short barrel rifles. Somehow a 16-inch rifle is the magic number that makes it not dangerous, or shotguns 18 inches. It's a But then they wound up throwing silencers on there almost as an afterthought because somebody had the idea that they were going to prevent poaching. So
Mm,
it was it was originally intended to be a machine gun handgun bill and wound up being kind of a weird conglomerate, and silencers just got tacked on at the very end.
right. Now, is it good to have should a person get a trust when getting one of the silencers or suppressors, or should they do it as an individual? Kind of, can you guide us through that a little bit, making that decision?
You know, personally, for almost everybody, I think a single shot trust is the best way to buy a silencer.
Why do you say
You
that?
don't have to worry about, well, you don't have to worry about a bunch of responsible persons forms. So there's less paperwork. You get approved at the speed of an individual, which typically individuals or single person trusts will be processed faster than multi-person trusts. But then when it gets approved, you can write the rest of your family members onto it. And since every silencer gets its own trust with a single shot, you could actually have different people who can have possession of each one, right? It's a very, very flexible way to own suppressors, is the single shot trust. And it's super inexpensive too. I mean, it's like almost free compared to setting up a regular gun trust.
Now, what happens if I have a single shot trust and let's say I die or I get arrested? What happens to my suppressor or my silencer?
Yeah, it's the same as a regular trust. You can write on beneficiaries and
Okay,
other trustees. So it basically gets handled the same as if it were a regular family trust.
got it. Okay. All right. Got a couple questions for you. And by the way, our call in number is 512-643-5483. That's 512-643-5483. So definitely give us a call and let's ask Dave some questions. I got a couple questions online here. Thomas says, can someone who is a Texas resident living abroad still buy a silencer?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We'll sell to people from Texas who are stationed overseas, will buy silencers all the time. The one thing to keep in mind is you or somebody on your trust needs to be in Texas to pick it up. Right. So, if you want somebody to pick it up and you're still going to be overseas, you need to have it on a trust, and somebody else on the trust needs to be here.
Got it. All right, we're talking with Dave. He's the CEO and founder of Silencer Shop. They're the largest distributor of silencers in the country. That's right, Silencer Shop. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Jack Jones here, and I get my gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights, and you shouldn't rely on the police to read them to you. Affirmatively invoke your rights.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, we're talking with Dave. He's the CEO and founder of Silencer Shop, and Silencer Shop is the largest distributor of silencers in the country. And I want to talk a little, Dave, about House Bill 957. But before we do that, before we talk about House Bill 957 in the Texas legislature, there's been an update on the Austin mass shooting from the mayor.
Yeah, Mayor Adler just released a statement this afternoon at 12:41. And he said, "There is now one suspect in custody in Friday night's shooting on 6th Street. Thanks to the first responders for their quick work that saved lives. One suspect remains at large. Anyone with information should call 911 or 512-472-TIPS. My thoughts are with the many injured, some critically, who now must heal the physical and mental wounds that come from being shot at random while living their lives. They have a long journey ahead of them as a result of mere moments of senseless violence. Crowds returned to 6th Street last night because Austin is a safe city. Austinites will go about their plans today because Austin is a safe city. Some will rattle cages about increasing violence locally, but Austin remains one of the safest cities in the state and country."
All right, I know there's some people have some questions, statements about that. So we'll talk about that a little later. And I want to get back to House Bill 957. And just so you know, Texas House Bill 957, the bill removes firearm suppressors from the list of prohibited weapons in the Texas Penal Code. And the bill also makes a firearm suppressor that is manufactured and remains in Texas not subject to federal law or federal regulation. The bill also prescribes procedures for various forms of relief. So I want to talk about that with Dave. So Dave, tell me kind of what your thoughts on this.
I kind of have two thought paths. The first is I think it's awesome. I think there are several other states that have done similar things, and I think the reality is silencers should not be regulated the same way that machine guns are, because once again they are a safety device, right? They're not much more than that. On the flip side, it makes me a little bit nervous because this really does need to go through the courts before before we can actually count on it. In Kansas, there was a similar law, and some people wound up going to federal prison because they kind of jumped the gun and, started acting on the law before it did get through the courts. I'm hopeful, but I suspect we've got years ahead of us before this actually makes any meaningful difference in Texas.
Yeah, because I guess what's going to happen is someone's going to have to step forward and be the test case, isn't it?
I know. Do you want to be the test case?
No, sir, I do not. Because, that person will have to get, you're looking at charged with a felony, and you're looking at,
That's
I guess,
right.
the state of Texas, the AG would have to, hopefully represent you or help to represent you, against the federal government in that case.
Yeah, it's like you're basically betting everything, 10 years in prison and a however much of a fine, to kind of serve the greater good. I'm not sure how long it's going to take for this to actually get to go to court, but I personally wouldn't risk it at all until it does.
Right.
And once again, it could be years.
Yeah, and this is probably going to be the ATF coming down on you. And
Yes.
we know what happens to the people that the ATF come down on.
Yeah. I personally, I
Texas.
wouldn't risk it.
Yeah.
So, it's funny because, marijuana, it's like that just flies under the radar. Nobody seems to care. But with guns, I think ATF's a whole different animal.
Right. Yeah, it's just that's I'm just curious how that's going to work because there's the way this bill is written, it would have to be all the parts would have to be made, manufactured, can't cross state lines, uh, and it should I guess it's supposed to be stamped with "Made in Texas," and then you're supposed to
Right.
be able to have it. So, but someone's going to have to be the test case. Some company's going to have to step forward, or some person going to have to step forward and say, "Okay, I've made this, I designed this, and it's stamped Texas." And I'm not going to go through the NFA process and going to walk around with it.
Yeah. And you start talking interstate commerce, and I tell you what, the courts almost always side on the case on the side. They almost always come down with the feds, right? You look at how many laws have been passed with interstate commerce as their backbone. It's like it's almost an unlimited power to the federal government in some cases. It would make me nervous. We'll see where it goes.
And I'm encouraging people to move with this with caution because you're talking a felony is what you're talking about.
Yeah. Personally, I wouldn't do anything with it at all. I wouldn't touch it until it gets through the courts. But once again, I think the concept of it is awesome. I think I this is you should be able to buy a silencer like you buy a flashlight is really how it should be.
You're right. You really should, because I think if OSHA was was actually back then when silencers came about, I think it would have changed it greatly. I think we would have been able to have it a lot easier than you can do it now. I don't know why
Yep.
it's so difficult. Sometimes we make things so hard when it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
All right, so Dave, man, tell us, what are you guys working on at Silencer Shop? Anything new coming out of Silencer Shop?
We have got a lot of new stuff coming out this year. We're she's just weeks away from launching a brand new customer portal. We have a new dealer portal coming. We basically, in 2016, we wrote so much code in 1 year. Now we're going back and revisiting it, making it more streamlined, more easy to use for customers, for dealers. It's going to be a big year. We also have once this initial launch is done, we have a new version of the kiosk we're working on, especially the fingerprinting portion of it, and and then we'll work on a new mobile app as well.
Oh
By
wow,
the end of this year, you'll see almost everything updated.
oh wow, that's awesome. Man, I'm excited, and I love the kiosk. I think that was just like the best thing since ice cream. When you came out with the
Yeah.
kiosk, it just makes it so easy, just painless. People come in, they walk in, do their fingerprints, download the app, do their photo, select what they're gonna do do after that as far as a trust, and then boom, sit back and wait for the documents to come. Documents come, DocuSign, you sign them, the dealer signs them, and boom, off it goes to the ATF. Just sit back and wait for your tax stamp to come back. It's awesome. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's pretty smooth. I mean, for most people, it's just the process itself is super easy, right? It's the wait that makes it feel hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I tell you what, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate you coming on and laying all this out for us. We're excited about some new stuff coming from Silencer Shop. We're always excited about new technology and the direction that you guys are going because, you're the largest distributor of silencers in the country. And, like I said, you walk into the lobby and you walk in, you think, oh, this is, very small shop. But man, Silencer Shop is huge. It's massive, as far as silencers and suppressors in this country. Just a force to be reckoned with. So I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time out of your busy day on Sunday to lay this out to us.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye. All right. Yeah, that was Dave Matheny, Austin resident CEO and founder of Silencer Shop and board member of the American Suppressor Association. So let's get back into, man, this shooting happened downtown Austin. So now it's what, 14 people were injured.
14, yep.
All right. So luckily, no one has died. That's a great thing. And a great. My hats off to the Austin Police Department and their quick response to this, going into a mass casualty event. That definitely proves that the training actually kicked in and worked. That they were able to get in there, get the casualties, get these people to safety to a hospital because they couldn't control the crowds. Man, I was looking at some of these videos and the crowd was just crazy. People were arguing with the police, fighting with police, and the police are busy trying to get people to the hospital. And yet people arguing, with them. It's crazy. I just don't understand that. Did you see it?
I didn't see the
No,
videos,
yeah. It's just there are a lot of videos out there, and you had people just fighting with the police, and they're basically trying to move the crowd out of the way to get an ambulance in. They're trying to move the crowd out of the way to get these people to safety, and people just in a way, just drunk and just unruly. It was just crazy, insane scene, and they were able to keep a composure and just focus on the people that were injured and get them out of there and get them to the hospital where it's whether it's in private vehicles, whether it was in a police car, because the paramedics couldn't get there enough time, couldn't get in and out fast enough to get people back and forth to the hospital. And so definitely my hat's off to the Austin Police Department because training actually kicked in and it actually worked. They did a great job on a mass casualty event. I want to go back and talk about, Austin and talk about our party district in 6th Street because, even in the 1800s, we said guns and bars don't mix and guns and alcohol don't mix. We said this back in the 1800s. And so, the Austin bar owners, and along with the Texas Restaurant Association, I'm just curious, when are they going to take this security seriously on 6th Street? They've got to step up to the plate and do something because you're looking at every single weekend, there's some type of incident. We've even had a shooting in a bar on 6th Street within the last few months, a shooting inside of a bar. So, something's got to change. If you know that there's problems, we have shootings on the street, we have shootings inside bars on 6th Street, then you may want to actually start searching people or checking people, wanting them, take them through some type of security or something like that. You can't do like this guy here, this video of this guy, we can't act like that when it comes to security. That's not the way to do it. We got to take it serious. And I guess you're going to have to pay these security officers a little more money, because it's just not good. Just not good. What do you think?
Yeah, they better wand me from my neck to my ankles.
You're right. Yeah, me too. Not even going to lie. Me too. Not going to lie. And it better work. Batteries better work.
Better not be wanding like that guy frisking in that video.
Oh, yeah. Take a look at this video. It's just crazy. This guy is just, man, that's how you search people. That's how you check in everyone. That's not working.
Yeah, for everybody listening on the radio, there's basically this old man. He's the guy who's checking everyone at the gate, and he's basically just putting his hands just over the person's skin, just tracing over their arm, and then a little bit of their side. I don't even know if he's actually touching them.
Well, he doesn't even bend over. He's not touching them, and he doesn't bend over at all.
He just kind of reaches as far as his hands will move.
It's like he's using the force.
Like next.
I can feel you.
Come on, man.
Just using the force. That's all he's doing. All right. So in several videos, I saw individuals grabbing and putting weapons on motorcycles and saddlebags. So they gotta. You're gonna have to block the streets off and make sure doing events like this, like the Rot Rally, that you make you block the streets so that even motorcycles can't even park on 6th Street. Have them park. We got to move the homeless away from the 6th Street and I-35, that bridge. And let's get back to that being the city parking lot. What a concept. What it's supposed to be, and have the motorcycles parked there, have everyone go through some type of like a security screening checkpoint to get into the party district. Unfortunately, that's what you're gonna have to do when you have a shooting every single weekend. You got to do something. You can't allow this to happen. Unless, and I'm all for it. Hey, more guns. I say, hey, open it up. Don't do nothing and let everyone carry a gun, because that's what's gonna happen on September the 1st, and we'll see how it is. We'll see what happens then. On September the 1st, everyone gets to carry a gun unless you start doing something, to make sure during this party district while there's drinking and tempers are flaring. It always happens around the 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning time frame. Always happens in that same time frame. So we got to do something different, with your security. You can't just can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. And I warned them about this and about this weekend, this past weekend. And they assured me that when I'm saying I warned them, I actually talked to owners of the bars. I talked to the security people of the bars on 6th Street. I've talked to the bar association, the restaurant association. We had a nice little conversation. They assured me they knew what they were doing and they knew what the law was and all the good kind of stuff. So here's how you have it. And I've been having this argument with people on social media for the last month. We've been discussing this. On Twitter, we've been discussing this. On Facebook, we've been discussing this. And let me lay it out for you, because either some people are just stupid or just dumb. Here it is. COVID-19, when that happened in 2020, your bars, your restaurant, most of your businesses shut down. In order for a bar to open in 2020, the bars had to serve food and become a restaurant. When they did that, they changed their liquor license from a 51% to a blue sign restaurant. We come back from the break. We'll talk about that and more. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Jack Jones here, and I get my gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. By all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle, and they are not in contact with your vehicle, and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon would give you reasonable belief that there was an immediate threat of harm that would justify an act.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking about this mass shooting that happened in Austin, Texas. The Orlando nightclub shooting, the Pulse nightclub shooting, that happened on June 12, 2016. And so this happened the same, here we are back again, June 12th. There was another shooting, but this time it was in Austin. And you would think, coming up on the anniversary of the Pulse nightclub shooting, I would think that people would, say, you know what, let's tighten up our security a little bit and make sure there's not a repeat, something has happened, even though this was not related. The Post, and let me make sure that's clear because someone's going to come out and say something. The Post nightclub shooting had nothing to do, that this was not related to what happened in Austin, Texas. I'm just saying that knowing that there was a shooting that took place on June 12th, and this is the anniversary of that mass shooting, you would think as a bar, a club, you would take security a little more serious. Now, let's go into Facebook. Skip Davis says, there's another way of looking at this, Michael. Maybe they need to open 6th Street up to traffic again. I mean, now the 6th is barricaded. It has become the hangout zone. People ain't going inside the clubs, so many are just loitering outside. So he's saying, hey, just open the traffic up, let traffic flow. And I guess that's another way of looking at it. Letting traffic flow down 6th Street. Don't barricade it. Don't shut it down. Make people follow the rules of the road. And then let the bars actually manage how many people they have inside by keeping a line outside to get into the bar. But then, Skip, the way I look at that, that actually hurts law enforcement. If there's an incident across the street, and in order for law enforcement to get to that incident, when something happens, it's going to make it difficult because there are cars in the way. And also, when first responders or EMS to try to get into that area with cars in the way, it's going to make it even more, impossible for your EMS to get there. So I don't think that's it either. So I don't know. What do you think, Zach?
I wouldn't want to drive through that.
You wouldn't want to drive through that?
No.
No?
Not me.
Yeah, I tell you, I just don't know. I'm just saying, hey, on the anniversary of the Pulse nightclub shooting, you would think they would take these things a little more serious. And then, like I was saying before the break, I have warned them. I warned the owners. I've talked to the managers of the bars. I've talked to the owners of the bars. I talked to the restaurant association, and I said, hey, we're coming up on the Rot Rally. You guys need to do something different this year, because as we get closer, people are making the mistake of thinking, for some strange reason, they're thinking that permitless carry has passed and they can actually carry a gun, without a license. And what I was saying before the previous break was I was breaking it down is I was telling you about how we got to this point where with COVID-19 in 2020, your bars had to close. In order for them to open, they had to serve food. By doing that, them serving food, they changed their liquor license from a red 51% to a blue restaurant sign. So now, when they changed from the 51%, the red sign, no guns, no knives, they actually changed it to the blue sign, the notice sign there that said, hey, your restaurant, now you can take any size knife inside, and also you can take a handgun inside as long as you have a license. Well, starting September the 1st, I'm suspecting, I don't know this because TABC is saying, hey, mum's the word, no comment. I'm thinking that probably the blue sign, the notice sign is going to go away because starting September the 1st, you won't need a license in order to carry inside of a restaurant. You'll be able to carry inside of a restaurant. The restaurant would have to post a 30.05 sign, or tell you verbally that you can't carry inside if you don't have a license. If you have a license, they have to post a 30.06. License holders cannot conceal carry a handgun, or a 30.07. License holders cannot openly carry a handgun. So starting September the 1st, that's going to happen. So you will not need a license to carry inside of a restaurant. Well, let's speed forward to where we are today. Okay, here we are today. Permitless carry has not gone into effect yet. So currently right now, 90% of your bars that are on 6th Street still have the blue. They are blue. When you go to TABC's website and you research all the different bars on the TABC's website, you pick any restaurant, the library, any restaurant, 512, any restaurant on 6th Street, pick one. I don't care. Throw a dice. And when you pick one of those restaurants, you search the database, and it comes up gun sign. If it says red, that means they're 51%. You can't take your gun inside, can't take a knife inside. If it says gun sign blue, that means with a license, you can take your handgun inside. You can also take any size knife inside. Okay, so that's where we are today. Starting September the 1st, you will be able to, and you're looking at this on the screen here. So we're walking through the process of going to the TABC's website, walk through the process of, putting in, that name of the bar, and then you do your search, put in the caption, all that stuff, and it pulls up the bar, and you look at what their liquor license says. Gun sign, is it red or is it blue? If it's blue, then with a license currently right now, you can take your handgun inside and size knife. starting September the 1st, guess what? You won't need a license nor to carry in there because they're considered a restaurant. What has happened is your bars on 6th Street, people, have not changed their license back to red 51%. So currently, right now, you can take your gun inside. On September the 1st, a person without a license will be able to take your gun inside. Most of these licenses don't expire for a few years unless TABC shows up and forces them to change. What do you think about that?
So if they have a red gun sign, the 51% sign, then you can take a knife in if it's under 5.5 inches?
Correct. So if they have the 51% sign, you can't take a knife that's over 5.1 inches. The length of the blade cannot be over 5.1 inches. Cannot take it in any 51% establishment, which is gun sign red.
So you can only take your small knife in there.
Yeah, just a little knife. Well, 5.5 inches is pretty big.
That is.
That's pretty big. And then I'm telling people, I've been saying this over and over again, and I don't know why it's so difficult for people to understand. It's a money thing. Well, why haven't the bars actually gone back to the 51%? Well, it's a money thing. It's cheaper for them to do the restaurant, the blue sign, that blue notice sign. That's actually a little cheaper. So that's why they haven't switched it back. And they're not doing food anymore. Walk in one of those bars on 6th Street, go into the library, go into 512, just pick any bar, go into the bar where the shooting, outside, that bar where the shooting took place outside. Go to that bar. They are blue, gun sign blue. You can take your gun inside there, and they're not serving any food at all. Yeah. So, the bar owners, then the managers they got to wake up, and you got to do the right thing and make sure we stop this, because if you don't, this is you're affecting my gun laws. I'm afraid that something's gonna happen, and if we go into special sessions, which it looks like we're gonna have a special session. If there's some type of shooting during that special session, again, we're gonna have a problem. You're gonna affect my gun laws, and I don't want my gun laws affected. So I want to make sure that you're running this business, you're running a bar, you do the right thing. Let's do the right thing. Let's tighten up your security. It's up to you to make sure, that we do this. And anyone out there, in social media land, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Give me something, what we should do that's different. Because I'm looking at the stats right now. According to the FBI, we're looking at a record high, in hate crimes, have actually increased during COVID. So we're looking at, crime is actually slightly increasing a little bit. So we have to do something differently, and it's definitely increasing in the city of Austin. Yes, Austin is a safe city compared to other cities, but this was not the Austin 3 years ago. Austin was not like this. We didn't have these shootings downtown. I don't remember worrying about having to take a gun when I go out to have a great time. I didn't worry about that 4 years ago. We didn't have this problem. We have it now. We need new city leadership. We need a different city council. We need a different mayor, because we got to take security serious. We've got to do something different. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back. We're talking about, crime here in Austin, Texas. I hate focusing just on one city. I like to focus around the country and all around the world. But, just last night, there were 3 overnight shootings in Austin in one day. After the 6th Street mass shooting, there were 3 more shootings, So you had shooting number 1, the East Austin shooting incident happened around 2:09 a.m. near Todd Lane, nearly the same location as a different shooting that happened just days earlier. While there are a few details on what led up to the incident, police report there was a large gathering before, and 2 female victims are said to be in critical but stable condition in the hospital. My goodness, my hat's off to the hospitals because you're dealing with a lot of shootings. No one's thanked the nurses. No one's thanked the doctors in the hospital because they're dealing with a lot right now. Just trauma. Shooting number 2. This incident happened around 2:39 a.m. on Sunday on Jollyville Road in North Austin. According to the police, one male suspect was taken to the hospital with a non-life-threatening gunshot wound. Shooting number 3. This North Austin shooting incident was reported at 3:07 a.m. on Howard Lane. Police say a man was taken to a Round Rock hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. My goodness, it's like shooting number 1, shooting number 2, shooting number 3. But an Austin mayor, he says this is a safe city. It's not safe. We're going to have to do something with law enforcement. We got to, we got to give them the resource they need. We need to hire more police officers because here you're looking at, let's look at the APD vacancies. Let's take a look at that. So, here's the fact. Here are the receipts for those people that, that are in Missouri, the show me states. I need to give you some receipts. Okay. APD vacancies since December of 2019. Since 2019, there are 251 vacancies from the Austin Police Department and no hires. Okay? 251. That's going to be your retirements. Majority of them are retirements. Majority of them are retirements. I can't say that enough. Resignations, terminations, and 1 death. 251. We've lost 251 police officers. And you're wondering why when you dial 911, you're not getting, the services that you need. This is why. This is why we couldn't get people to the hospital fast enough, because we're defunding the police. Defunding. And I like for someone to give me a call and tell me we're not defunding the police, because we are. We're defunding the police. When you're moving money from one agency, you're putting it somewhere else, you're defunding them. That's what it is. So I don't know how you want to spell that out for me. We're defunding our police. This is it's crazy to me. Now, a woman was killed in an apparent shooting in North Austin. So the Austin police are investigating the death of a woman in North Austin on Saturday afternoon. Man, here we go. Is this shooting number 4? This is shooting number 4. The 4th shooting since the mass shooting in downtown Austin. So police were called to the 1900 block of West Runberg Lane near Northgate Boulevard around 3 p.m. A 911 caller reported a woman being shot. When officers arrived, they located the victim with multiple gunshot wounds. They proceeded to offer first aid until medics arrived. The victim was later transported to a nearby hospital where she later died. Police say they don't believe there is an ongoing threat to the public. So shooting number 4 since the mass shooting in downtown Austin. Don't know what to tell you. All right. We got to do something different. You got to take your own personal safety in your own hands. That's for starters. You got to take a class, learn safety, learn situational awareness, learn conflict resolution. Try to calm those certain situations down. We need to get to the point where you're not going to win every argument. You're not going to win every conversation. Sometimes you just need to back down, let things go, and go on about your day. Let's not let these situations escalate to the next level to where guns are brought out and, tempers flare. Let's calm that situation down a little bit. How about we, let's live another day and just back down. You cannot make someone do what they don't want to do. But what we can do is we can control our own actions. I can only control myself. I can't control my neighbors. I can't control, anything else. I can't control that vehicle that's driving down the road. I can only keep control of my vehicle. Even this person just cut me off in the road. I can't worry about that. I need to just maintain control of my vehicle, let him or her get on down the road. You cannot make someone do what they don't want to do, but you can control yourself. You can control your own actions. Let's go to social media here. Let's see. What keeps the club owners from putting up a red sign even though their actual status is blue? Well, they're violating the TABC. They're violating their liquor license. Liquor license says it's blue. Before I walk into a restaurant or a bar, I pull up the TABC's website, Skip, and I see what their status is, and I do a screenshot and I walk in. Boom, in I go, because according to TABC, which is the authority, I can carry my gun there. If it's a blue sign. Is it illegal to not allow any guns, blue or red, in my club? Well, all you got to do is very simple. If you don't want someone to take a gun inside, you can have, I would, if I own a bar or club, I would actually have my security person or door person actually wanding people, up and down to make sure they don't bring a firearm inside. I would check them, that's the way you do it. Even we do classes. We do the either beginning handgun classes or license to carry handgun courses. In our classroom, we don't allow firearms inside the classroom. So we make people check them at the entrance. You leave your gun behind the gun counter and then go into the classroom. Why do I do this? Because I don't want someone playing with a gun while we're trying to conduct a safety course. I don't want a negligent or accidental discharge of a firearm. So you got to at some point realize we need to worry about safety and worry about security and do the right thing. You said be an adult and walk away. I agree with you, Thomas. And that's the big problem. We're driving down the road and, people are, and we know we've gone too far, right? Zach, at some point when we've gone too far.
Oh, I've never gone too far.
You never gone too far? Never driving down the road and that person cuts you off. You're like, man, I'm going to make them pay. So we do something to make them mad. You don't ever do that?
That's kind of hop on their tail a little bit, you know.
See,
but, yeah.
and see, and we can't do that. You got to back off and like, oh, I want to do this so bad, you know. But it's like, no, I got somewhere to go. I don't have time to play games with this person. You know, I'm just gonna back off, let them get on to where they're going. I'm gonna exit off and go a different direction or take the service road or something like that. Let them get on down the road. That's what I do. You know, just notice it's not even worth the energy. It's not worth that negative energy in my body because I'm trying to get to point A or point B, and I want to have the energy to do what I need to get done. I don't want them to suck the energy and that life from me, and then when I have that negative energy, I'm gonna throw that negative energy on someone else and put someone else in a bad mood. So instead of doing that, that's why I like to smile a lot. I like to greet everyone, talk to everyone. I walk into a room, hey, how's everyone doing? And I learned that from my grandmother. You know that? My grandmother, when she took public transportation, she would get on the city bus and she would say, good morning, everybody. God loves you. I do too. She would greet everyone going in, just smiling at everyone. I learned that from my grandmother. And that's kind of what I do. And I think if we learn how to do that, we push some of that positive energy out there, it'd be a better society. Just don't take everything so serious. Someone bumps you in a club, you're out, later on tonight, and someone bumps you, say, oh man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, to bump into you, even though it was maybe it was their fault. But there's nothing wrong with apologizing and say, hey, I apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bump into you. And get on down the road. There are times, and I've done something. I say, oh, you know what? I'm going to buy you a drink, because maybe I did something wrong or there was some negative, some bad blood or something like that, and try to clear that air a little bit. We got to go out our way to be nice to people, not go out our way to be nasty. What do you think, Zach?
That's a good way to be right there. Avoid conflict when you can, right?
That's right. And you know what? That's some of the things that we talk about in the handgun license course, but some people don't know that because they don't come to class. That's right. Don't know because they don't come to class. All right. So I want to get in a little bit into the FBI report here on some of the stats. The number of hate crimes targeting black people has dipped slightly from 1,943 in 2018 to 1,930 last year. Other groups, most notable Jews and Latinos, saw a rise in offenses. There were 953 reports of anti-Jewish hate crimes and 14% increase over the previous year. The anti-Hispanic category saw a jump from 485 to 527 in the same period. Academics and civil rights groups consider the FBI's yearly report an important gauge for hate crime levels in a given year, but emphasize that it's in an undercount because of the problem with how incidents are reported and characterized. The FBI's definition of hate crimes include those motivated by bias toward a person's race, religion, or sexual orientation. So, and some of those, our hate crimes actually increase, and I think we need to go our way to be nice to people, really do. And I think that'll make things a little better. We come back, I want to close out by talking about, once again, some of the things that we can do to make some changes to downtown Austin so we can have a better downtown. We need to get back to the way Austin used to be. We need to get back to, we need to deal with the homeless situation that we have. We need to get back to having more officers on the road compared to how many citizens we have in this city. We need to make sure that 911 calls are actually answered. They're able to respond to those 911 calls. Make sure we're calling the police for things that that we actually need the police so that they're available. We're going to talk about that when we come back. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Brittany Glaze, and I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights and you shouldn't rely on the police to read them to you. Affirmatively invoke your rights. Say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent and my right to my attorney. Once you do that, the police legally shouldn't continue questioning you without your attorney present. But remember, there's a second part to this equation. After invoking your rights, you must exercise those rights. That means you have to keep your mouth closed. Protect yourself. Don't let the legal system take advantage of you after an incident. And Law Shield members, if you've been involved in a self-defense incident, remember to call the emergency hotline and speak with your independent program attorney.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we've got some breaking news coming in from the Statesman in K-View. One of the victims critically injured in the 6th Street shooting has died. Multiple officials confirm that this man was vacationing in Austin from New York. So now we have 14 injured and 1 death. Well, I guess it can go back to 13 injured and 1 death, 1 fatality. All right, so 13 injured and 1 death. All right, so the Austin mass shooting on June 12th, which was the anniversary of the Pulse nightclub shooting, was not a gun-free zone. So I don't want people to go out there and say, hey, this is a gun-free zone, because this happened on the streets of Austin. You can carry a gun there with a license. And then also, even inside where the 911 call came from, that bar, their liquor license is a restaurant. So legally, with a license, you can carry inside that bar. And even in the 1800s, we said guns and bars don't mix and guns and alcohol don't mix. So even though I'm telling you that, because of TBC and the way the law is, because of COVID-19, those restrictions, you may be able to take your gun inside that establishment, but you cannot be intoxicated. You can't be intoxicated. As a license holder carrying a handgun, you cannot be intoxicated. 0 is the limit. So just always be aware of that. And my question is for the Austin bar owners, along with the Texas Restaurant Association, are we going to take security seriously or serious on 6th Street? For starters, Dirty Six should be blocked off to all traffic. That includes motorcycles. There should be a screening process to get inside the area. All bars should search and either wand or have everyone go through a metal detector before entering the premises. In several videos, I saw individuals grabbing or putting weapons on motorcycles and saddlebags. And so this caused a problem. By removing that ability to park on 6th Street with a motorcycle, you eliminate that. Now, because of COVID-19, the bars on Dirty Six changed their liquor license from a bar to a restaurant. Still today, they have not switched back to a bar license. So starting September the 1st, when permitless carry goes into effect, handguns will be allowed in all the bars because their liquor license is a restaurant and not a bar. I warned them about this past this weekend, and they assured me that they would do things differently. Still, instead, we have unprepared, untrained door personnel doing the job of security officers. I'm the owner of a gun store where criminals tried to break into my business on 2 occasions, and because of our security, we were able to stop them. No other gun store in Texas can actually say that. When we are conducting gun classes, I do not allow firearms inside the classroom to eliminate an accidental, negligent, or intentional discharge of firearms. We only handle firearms at the range. Almost every weekend in Austin, there's a shooting on Dirty Six. Our city leadership has removed funds from law enforcement. As a result, we have less police and no crowd control to handle, any emergency that could take place. Literally, the crazies are running the nut house. Literally. Because of the news headlines, people think that permitless carry is legal now. Well, it's not. And it doesn't go into effect until September the 1st of 2021. I encourage you to take a class and learn what the laws are. Let's talk about some conflict resolution. Let's talk about de-escalation of certain situations. Let's talk about where you can, where you cannot carry. Let's talk about use of force and deadly force. Do you know that when it comes to use of force and deadly force, there's only certain situations you can actually use a gun? Do you know that when it comes to deadly force, you can only use a firearm if a person is committing aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, robbery, aggravated robbery? If a person is entering or removing you from your home, your vehicle, your place of business unlawfully, that's the only situation you would be able to use a firearm. If they're not entering your home, your vehicle, your place of business unlawfully, if they're not committing aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, robbery, aggravated robbery, then don't ever pull the gun out. And when you do, that is a $20,000 bullet. You think that when you walk into the gun store, you think ammunition is expensive? Ammunition is not expensive when you walk to the gun store. Don't complain about the price of the ammo. Because if you pull that gun out and you use it, that's a $20,000 bullet. Because you're going to go to jail. You're going to be fingerprinted, booked, spend 9 in jail, have to bail yourself out of jail, have to hire an attorney, and it's going to cost you $20,000 to get to the grand jury phase. So make sure that if you ever pull a gun out and use it, you make sure that it's aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, robbery, aggravated robbery. A person is entering or removing you from your home, your vehicle, your place of business or employment. If it's not one of those, then don't ever pull a gun out. I suggest you take a class, go over different shooting scenarios, because I love reading through social media when people talk about these different shootings and listening to people get upset about a particular shooting where it's a police-involved shooting or whatever it is, and they all get it wrong because people don't understand what the law is, specifically in the state where they live. You don't know use of force and deadly force. No one's taught you that. You never gone to a class and learned anything. You regurgitate things that you have no knowledge of. People just ignorant to what the laws are. You got to take a class and learn what you can and cannot do. Where can you take the handgun? Where can you not have a handgun? Do you know that when it comes to long guns, rifles, and shotguns, do you know it goes all back to 1870s where we can walk down the street and carry a long gun, a rifle, a shotgun? Do you know that I get people that say, well, that think that you can't have a long gun in a vehicle? They think that you can't have it in a rifle rack anymore because they don't see it. That's their mindset, because just because they don't see it, they think that you can't do it. Well, you can do it. You can actually have a long gun or rifle in a rifle rack fully loaded in your vehicle. You can walk down Congress Avenue if you want to and openly carry a loaded rifle or shotgun. Do you know the majority of businesses, you can walk into majority of businesses with a long gun? In order to prohibit you from carrying a long gun, if it's in 46.03 of the Texas Penal Code, no firearms allowed in any of those places there. You can't take one into a bar or restaurant. But what you can do, any other regular business, you can take a long gun, into that business. They would have to either post a simple sign that says no firearms allowed, or, tell you verbally. When it comes to these bars, restaurant that we're talking about on 6th Street, if you want to make sure that you're being safe and you make sure that you don't, we're not going to have firearms inside the bar, just have your door guy stand there, warn people, check them, give them verbal notice, inform them that guns are not allowed inside the bar, or post a 30.06 or 30.07 sign. Come September the 1st, post a 30.05 sign, And then, we'll make sure that we're probably a little safer downtown Austin and calm these situations down a little bit. Got to kick people out when they're starting to be trouble. You got to nip it in the bud from the beginning. Got to use a little signal, use a little code word. If you notice that a person's getting a little loud, getting a little out of hand, you might want to contact police, get them over to the front door, and then identify that person, pull them out, bam, get them to the front door. Before they know it, they're out on the street. They're out. They're gone. And you've eliminated the situation before it even started up. You got to nip it in the bud from the beginning. You can't wait until it gets out of control or out of hand. Got to use your head. Got to look at these situations. Literally, I can't say it enough. The crazies are running the asylum here. They're running the nut house. We got to do something about our city council. We got to do something about the mayor. We've got to do something about where this city is going, because if we don't, in another 2 years, another year, we're going to look at our numbers are going to double. They're going to double from where they are today. So we got to do something different. We got to be a little better at it. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to be better, right?
Be best.
Be best. Who said that?
Who said that? Be best.
Who said that?
Be best.
Who used to say that?
The former first lady. Be best. Be best. Oh, man, that's great.
I mean, we've got some great leadership in city council and then the mayor, so I trust them to just steer our city in the right direction.
You do? Oh, I'm like, what? What's happening right now?
Psych.
Am I being punked?
Nah, everybody's got to.
It was a lapse in judgment.
Everybody's got to be responsible for themselves. It seems like it's so much of a free for all.
Yeah, it really is. It just madness.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. We didn't even get a chance to talk about the Virginia Tech linebacker who accused a fatal beating of a man. Got to talk about that.
Oh, the Tinder date catfish.
What, tell me about that real quick.
Yeah, so this 18-year-old Virginia Tech linebacker, it was Virginia Tech, right?
Uh-huh. Virginia Tech.
So he meets this hot girl on Tinder.
Okay.
They're talking online, and then he goes to meet her, and it turns out it's this 45-year-old man or something like that. And he was not happy about that.
Oh, my goodness.
And, he basically beat this guy to death with his fists.
Oh, wow.
He broke most of the bones in the guy's face, knocked most of his teeth out. And he said as he left, he could hear this guy choking on his own blood. And he left, and he didn't even say anything to the police. He didn't report it. He just left. And then the guy was found dead a day or two later.
And there's we got to talk about that again, because there's a law where if you're in a situation like that, something happens, that can be justified.
What?
If you we'll talk about that.
Walk away
at the next show.
As
always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.